April 15th, 1945, a field hospital, somewhere in Bavaria. The Third Reich is dying. The walls are closing in, and in a stone farmhouse converted into a surgical ward, a woman in a blood-stained apron stands over an operating table. Her hands are steady. Her eyes, exhausted beyond measure. She's been operating for 16 hours straight. No sleep, no food, just the endless stream of broken bodies, German soldiers, civilians, children caught in the crossfire. She doesn't ask their politics. She doesn't ask if they deserve to live. She just saves them. Outside, the sound of American artillery grows closer. Each explosion shakes the windows. Dust falls from the rafters, but her hands never tremble. Her name is Schwester Erika Schnell, Sister Erika Schnell, and in 72 hours, she will become the most unexpected choice the U.S. Army Medical Corps ever made. This is not a story of heroes and villains. This is not a story of good versus evil. This is a story about something more complicated, about duty, about humanity, about what happens when a woman who served the enemy becomes the only person who can save Allied lives. Because sometimes, the line between us and them isn't as clear as we'd like it to be. 3 years earlier. Berlin, Erika Schnell was 24 years old. Young, idealistic, and terrified. She'd grown up in a small village outside Munich, daughter of a schoolteacher and a seamstress. Quiet life. Simple dreams. She wanted to be a nurse, not because of the war, not because of politics, but because when she was 8 years old, her younger brother died of pneumonia. She held his hand as he struggled to breathe, watched the color drain from his face, and felt helpless. She never wanted to feel that way again. So she studied nursing school in Munich. Long hours, strict discipline, endless training. She learned anatomy, surgery, emergency medicine, how to set bones, how to stop bleeding, how to keep someone alive, when everything in their body was trying to shut down. She graduated top of her class in 1941, and then the letter came. Conscription. The Reich Health Service required all qualified nurses to serve. She had two choices: report to a military hospital assignment, or face arrest. There was no third option. She reported to the Wehrmacht Medical Corps in February 1942. They assigned her to Feldlazarett 342, Field Hospital 342, Eastern Front, Russia, the frozen hell where the German army was bleeding to death in the snow. She arrived in March. The cold hit her like a wall, minus 30 degrees, wind that cut through every layer of clothing, and the hospital. It wasn't a hospital. It was a nightmare, a commandeered schoolhouse with broken windows and no heat, operating tables made from doors laid across sawhorses, instruments sterilized in boiling water over wood fires, anesthesia, when they had it, which wasn't often. The wounded came in endless waves, frostbite so severe their fingers snapped off like icicles, gunshot wounds festering with gangrene, boys, 17, 18 years old, crying for their mothers as they died. Erika worked 18-hour shifts, sometimes 20. She held soldiers down while surgeons amputated without morphine. She stitched wounds by candlelight. She wrote letters to families she knew would never see their sons again, and she learned something that would define the rest of her life. Suffering has no nationality. Pain speaks the same language everywhere. The hospital sometimes treated Russian prisoners too, enemy soldiers, captured, wounded, dying. The German doctors would often refuse to treat them. Let them die, one surgeon said. They're Bolsheviks, subhuman. But Erika couldn't. She would sneak extra bandages to the Russian ward, share her meager rations, hold their hands as they died, whispering words she didn't understand. Once, a senior officer caught her, an SS Hauptsturmführer, cold-eyed and furious. "You waste German medical supplies on these animals?" She looked him in the eye. "They're human beings. That's not a waste." He could have had her arrested, shot. But the hospital was desperate. They couldn't afford to lose a nurse of her skill. He walked away. but she knew she was being watched. By 1943, the war was turning. Stalingrad had fallen, the Wehrmacht was retreating, and Erika was transferred west to a hospital in France, then Belgium, then finally back to Germany, Bavaria, where the Allies were closing in from all sides. The hospital in Bavaria was different. No longer just soldiers, now it was civilians too. Old men, women, children, victims of Allied bombing raids, refugees fleeing the advancing Soviet army, people with nowhere else to go. The supplies dwindled. No antibiotics, no blood plasma, no painkillers, just improvisation and prayers. Erika became the senior surgical nurse, not because of rank, but because everyone else was dead, captured, or had deserted. She was 27 years old, and she was in charge of a hospital that was falling apart, but she didn't leave. Even when the other nurses fled, even when the doctors discussed surrender, she stayed because the wounded kept coming and someone had to help them. April 15th, 1945. The Americans were 10 kilometers away, maybe less. The sound of artillery was constant now, a low, rolling thunder that never stopped. The hospital had 43 patients, 32 Wehrmacht soldiers, 7 civilians, 4 children. One doctor remained, Dr. Friedrich Weber, 60 years old, hands shaking from exhaustion and terror. And Erika. They'd been operating non-stop for 2 days, removing shrapnel, amputating limbs, trying to stop infections that spread like wildfire without antibiotics. The building itself was falling apart, windows blown out from nearby explosions, the roof half collapsed, no electricity, no running water, just oil lamps and hope. Dr. Weber stood over a young soldier, maybe 19, with a sucking chest wound. "I can't save him," Weber whispered. "We don't have the equipment." Erika looked at the boy. His eyes were wide, terrified. "Then we improvise," she said. She grabbed a rubber tube from a gas mask, cut it with surgical scissors, inserted it into the wound to drain the air from his chest cavity, sealed it with petroleum jelly and gauze. The boy gasped. His breathing steadied. He would live. For now. Weber stared at her. "Where did you learn that?" "Russia," she said quietly. "When we had nothing, we learned to make do." That night, as the artillery grew closer, the hospital received an order: evacuate immediately. All personnel and mobile patients to withdraw west. Abandon the wounded who couldn't be moved. Standard wartime protocol. Dr. Weber looked at Erika. "We have to go. If the Americans find us here." "Then they find us," she said. "Erika, they'll arrest us. We're enemy combatants. I'm a nurse. These are patients. I'm not leaving them." Weber was silent for a long moment. Then he nodded. "Then I'm staying too." They sent the mobile patients away with the retreating Wehrmacht units. And they stayed. Erika, Dr. Weber, and one young orderly named Hans, 18 years old, drafted 6 months ago, too terrified to speak. They had 27 patients left, too wounded to move, too sick to survive transport, and the Americans were coming. Erika stood in the courtyard that night, looking up at the stars. She thought about her brother, about Russia, about all the boys she'd watched die, and she made peace with whatever was about to happen. April 17th, 1945. Dawn. The artillery had stopped. That was somehow worse. The silence was suffocating. Erika stood at the broken window, watching the road. Then she saw them. American soldiers, dozens of them, moving carefully, rifles raised, clearing buildings one by one. They wore different uniforms than the Germans. Olive drab, helmets with netting. They looked professional, disciplined, and very, very dangerous. "They're here," she whispered. Dr. Weber stood beside her, hands trembling. "What do we do?" She took a white bedsheet, tied it to a broom handle. "We surrender." She walked out into the courtyard, alone, the white flag held high. The American soldiers spotted her immediately. A dozen rifles swung in her direction. "Halt! Hands up!" She stopped, raised her hands, still holding the flag. "Ich bin Krankenschwester," she called out. "I am nurse, hospital, Verwundete, wounded." Her English was broken, but clear enough. A sergeant stepped forward, rifle trained on her chest. "How many inside?" 27 patients, 1 doctor, 1 boy. "Armed?" She shook her head. "No weapons, only wounded." The sergeant studied her, blood on her apron, exhaustion in her eyes. "You Wehrmacht?" She hesitated, then nodded. "I am nurse." "Wehrmacht Medical Corps. But I am, not soldier." He gestured with his rifle. "Inside, slowly, hands where I can see them." She led them in. The Americans moved through the hospital carefully, securing each room. What they found shocked them. 27 men and boys, most missing limbs. Bandages soaked through with blood and pus, the stench of infection and death. But also, clean wounds, careful stitching, improvised medical care that had kept these men alive against impossible odds. A young American medic knelt beside one patient. "Sergeant, this guy's got a chest tube made from a gas mask." The sergeant turned to Erica. "You did this?" She nodded. "We have no equipment. We improvise." Another soldier called out. "Sarge, we got a problem. This one's burning up. Infection's bad." Erica moved toward the patient without thinking. 3 rifles immediately tracked her. "Easy!" the sergeant barked. She froze. Then, carefully, gestured toward the patient. "Please, he needs." She struggled for the word. "Penicillin, you have, yes?" The medic looked at the sergeant. The sergeant was silent for a long moment. "Give it to him. Sir, he's German. Give him the damn penicillin, Corporal." The medic hesitated, then pulled out a vial from his kit. Erica showed him where to inject it, guided his hands with the confidence of someone who'd done this 1,000 times. The sergeant watched her. "What's your name?" "Schnell." "Erica Schnell. Schwester, sister, nurse. How long you been here?" 3 years. Russia, France, Belgium, here. You treated Allied prisoners?" She met his eyes. "No point lying now. When I could." "Yes." He studied her for another moment, then lowered his rifle. "Corporal, call battalion. Tell them we've secured a German field hospital. We're gonna need medical support and transport for 27 patients." "What about her, Sarge?" The sergeant looked at Erica. "She's under arrest, but she's also the only one keeping these guys alive. So for now, she keeps working." The American medical team arrived 3 hours later, led by Captain Robert Hayes, U.S. Army Medical Corps 38. Years old, a surgeon from Philadelphia, he'd seen the worst of the war, North Africa, Sicily, Normandy. But what he found in that Bavarian farmhouse impressed him. He walked through the ward, examining patients. "These amputations," he said to his team, "they're clean, precise." He looked at a chest wound repair. This should have killed him. But someone knew what they were doing. He turned to the sergeant. "Where's the doctor?" They brought Dr. Weber forward, terrified, shaking. Hayes spoke some German. "These surgeries." "You performed them?" Weber hesitated, then shook his head, pointed to Erica. "She did most. I am old. My hands shake. She is better." Hayes turned to Erica, looked at her for a long moment. "You're a nurse?" "Yes." "You did these operations?" "Dr. Weber supervised. I assist, but yes." Hayes pulled out a chart, pointed to the chest tube patient. "Explain this to me." She did. In halting English, with hand gestures when words failed, explained how she'd adapted a gas mask tube to create a pneumothorax drain, how she'd used petroleum jelly as a one-way valve, how she'd kept the wound clean without antibiotics using boiled salt water. Hayes listened, then turned to his team. "She's better trained than half our field. Medics!" He looked back at Erica. "How many surgeries have you performed?" She thought, "I do not count." "Many hundred, maybe 1,000. Under fire?" "Always." Hayes was silent. Then he made a decision that would shock everyone. "I need her." The sergeant blinked. "Sir? We've got 300 wounded Americans at the field hospital in Regensburg. We're understaffed and overwhelmed. I need every qualified medical professional I can get. Captain, she's she's a nurse. And right now she's more valuable to us working than sitting in a POW camp. He turned to Erica. Can you work for us? Treat American soldiers? Erica didn't hesitate. Yes. Even after everything, she met his eyes. I am nurse, not soldier. I treat. Who needs treatment? Hayes nodded. Sergeant, take her German patients to the POW hospital. Send the critical cases to our field hospital. And bring her with us. Sir, is that authorized? I'll get it authorized. Load up. The field hospital at Regensburg was chaos, a converted monastery, filled wall to wall with wounded American soldiers. The battle for Germany was in its final weeks. The casualties were staggering. Hayes brought Erica in under guard. The reaction was immediate. American nurses stared. Medics whispered. Soldiers who could walk glared. That's a German nurse? What the hell is she doing here? My brother died at Bastogne. And we're working with them now? Hayes called an emergency staff meeting. Listen up. This is Schwester Schnell. She's a German military nurse with 3 years of combat surgical experience. She's highly skilled and we need her. A nurse spoke up. Lieutenant Sarah Morrison, red-haired and fierce. Captain, with respect. She's the enemy. She's a nurse. Just like you. She treated the men who killed our boys. Hayes' voice went cold. And now she's going to save our boys. That's an order. Anyone who can't handle that can request transfer right now. Silence. No one moved. Good. Morrison, you're with her. Show her our procedures. Watch her. But let her work. Morrison's jaw tightened, but she nodded. The first surgery was a test. An American private. Shrapnel wound to the abdomen, bleeding internally, fading fast. Hayes scrubbed in. Morrison assisted, and Erica watched. Halfway through, Hayes hit a problem. The shrapnel had nicked the mesenteric artery. Blood was everywhere. I can't see the bleeder, Hayes muttered. He was losing the patient. Erica stepped forward. Please, I can help. Morrison blocked her. Stay back. But Hayes looked at her, saw something in her eyes. Let her through. Erica stepped to the table, took a clamp. Her hands moved with absolute precision. She found the artery, clamped it. The bleeding stopped. Hayes stared, then continued the surgery. He closed the soldier lived. After, in the scrub room, Morrison confronted her. How did you do that? Erica looked at her. Russia, Eastern Front, we have very bad wounds. Many arterial bleeds. No time, no supplies. You learn, or they die. Morrison was silent, then quietly. My brother was killed at Hurtgen Forest. Erica nodded. I am sorry. Why should I trust you? Erica met her eyes. You should not. I am enemy, but I am also nurse. And these boys, they are hurt. I can help. Morrison studied her for a long moment, then held out a surgical gown. Next patient comes in 20 minutes. You're with me. For 2 weeks, Erica worked at the American Field Hospital. 18-hour shifts, surgery after surgery, amputations, abdominal repairs, chest wounds, burns. She worked alongside American nurses and doctors. At first, they watched her with suspicion, waiting for her to fail, or worse, to sabotage, but she never did. She saved lives, with skill, dedication, and a fierce determination that reminded them she was one of them. A medic, bound by the same oath, the same duty. Slowly, the hostility faded, not to friendship, not yet, but to respect. Lieutenant Morrison started asking her questions. How do you stay so calm during surgery? Erica shrugged. Panic helps no one. The patient needs steady hands, even when it's hopeless? Especially then. They deserve dignity, even in death. One night after a particularly brutal shift, Morrison found Erica sitting outside, staring at the stars, tears streaming down her face. You okay? Erica shook her head. Lost 3 today. 2 Americans. 1 German prisoner. Morrison sat beside her. You tried. Not enough. They sat in silence. Then Morrison spoke. I hated you when you arrived. I wanted you to fail. To prove you were less than us. Erica nodded. I understand. But watching you work, you care about them. As much as we do, they are patients. Nothing else matters. Morrison was quiet for a moment. My brother, the one who died. He wrote me a letter before Hurtgen. Said he met a German medic once during a ceasefire. Shared a cigarette. Said the guy seemed normal, human. She looked at Erica. I didn't believe him. I thought he was naive. But maybe. He was right. Erica wiped her eyes. War makes enemies of strangers. But in the hospital, we are just people trying to save lives. Morrison nodded. Tomorrow there's a mass casualty from Dachau. Liberated prisoners. It's going to be bad. I will be ready. Erica, some of them might be from your country. Victims of your government. Erica met her eyes. Then I owe them even more. The Dachau survivors arrived at dawn, trucks full of skeletal figures, walking. Corpses, typhus, starvation, TB injuries from years of abuse. The American staff was overwhelmed, not just by the numbers, but by the horror. Erica moved through the ward. Patient 2. Patient. Starting IVs, cleaning wounds, whispering comfort in. German one man, a Polish Jew, grabbed her wrist, saw her Wehrmacht armband, still on her uniform. His eyes went wide with terror. No. Please. Erica gently removed the armband, dropped it on the floor. I am nurse. Only nurse. You are safe. She treated him, fed him, held his hand until he fell asleep. Captain Hayes watched from across the room. Later, he called her to his office. Sit. She sat. I've been documenting your work, your skills, and I've submitted a recommendation to HQ. Recommendation? We're establishing a large POW hospital complex for German prisoners. Many are wounded, sick. They need medical staff. Erica nodded. I understand. You send me there. Not quite. I'm recommending you be appointed chief surgical nurse of the entire facility. She stared at him. I do not understand. You'd be in charge of all nursing staff. German and American, overseeing care for thousands of patients. But I am German. Enemy. You're also the most skilled combat nurse I've ever worked with, and you've proven over and over that you care about patients, not politics. He leaned forward. This war is almost over, Erica, but the healing, that's going to take years. We need people like you. People who can bridge the gap. The other nurses, they will not accept me. Morrison vouched for you. So did half the staff. They've seen you work. They trust you. Erica was silent. Then, what about Dr. Weber? The young orderly, Hans? They'll be assigned to the same facility. Under your supervision. She took a deep breath. I accept. The POW hospital at Augsburg opened in June 1945-3, weeks after Germany's surrender. Housed over 4,000 German prisoners. Wounded. Soldiers, civilians caught in the crossfire, men, women, and children. All victims of a war that had finally ended. Erica arrived as chief surgical nurse, wearing an American Red Cross armband, working alongside former enemies. Leading a staff of 20 German nurses and 15 American. Medics. It wasn't easy. The German staff resented taking orders from someone they saw as a traitor. The American staff still harbored anger and suspicion. But Erica didn't care about politics. She cared about one thing, her patients. She instituted training programs, shared techniques she'd learned in Russia, taught American medics how to improvise when supplies. Ran low and slowly, the hospital became something unexpected, a place where enemies became colleagues, where nationality mattered less than competence, where the only flag that mattered was the Red Cross. One day, a young American medic approached her. Ma'am, I have a question. Yes. How do you do it? Work with people who were shooting at us weeks ago? Erica looked at him. Do you see patients, or do you see enemies? Patients, ma'am. Then you already know the answer. By August, the hospital was running efficiently. Survival rates were high, infections were under control, and the wounded were healing. Captain Hayes visited in September, walked through the wards with Erica. You've done something remarkable here, he said. I have done my job. No, you've done more. You've shown us that even after everything, humanity can prevail. He handed her a document. What is this? Your official discharge from German military service. And an offer. The U.S. Army Medical Corps wants to hire you, as a civilian contractor, to train our nurses in combat trauma care. Erica stared at the paper. You want me to work for America? We want you to work for medicine. Nationality aside, she was silent for a long time. I must think. Take your time. Erica Schnell worked at the Augsburg POW hospital until it closed in late 1946. She never took the American offer. Instead, she returned to her village outside Munich and opened a small clinic. She treated everyone. Former soldiers, refugees, Allied occupation troops. She didn't ask about the past. She just healed, Lieutenant. Sarah Morrison stayed in touch, wrote letters, visited once in 1948. They had tea in Erica's tiny kitchen. You could have had a career in America, Morrison said. Why stay here? Erica looked out the window at the ruins still being rebuilt. This is my home. These are my people. They need healing too. Do they appreciate what you did? Some do. Some call me traitor for working with Americans. Others call me Nazi for serving the Wehrmacht, she smiled sadly. I am neither. I am just nurse. Morrison nodded. For what it's worth, you saved a lot of American lives. We don't forget that. And I treated German soldiers, Russians, Poles, everyone. That's what makes you who you are. Erica Schnell passed away in 1987 at the age of 69. Her obituary in the local paper was small. It mentioned her work as a nurse during the war, her service at the American POW hospital, her decades running a village clinic, but it didn't capture the whole story. The impossible choices. The lives saved on both sides. The humanity she maintained. In the midst of inhumanity, at her funeral, an unexpected guest arrived. An elderly American man, former Private James Kowalski, one of the soldiers she'd treated at Regensburg. He placed flowers on her grave and whispered, "Thank you, sister. You gave me 50 more years, history. Doesn't remember Erica Schnell. There are no medals, no monuments, no Hollywood movies about her life, but in a small village outside Munich and in the memories of dozens of men who survived impossible wounds, she is remembered. Not as German or American, not as enemy or ally, but as what she always was, a nurse who believed that suffering has no nationality, that healing has no borders, and that sometime the most courageous thing you can do is put down your flag and pick up a scalpel, because in the end, we're all just human, and we all bleed the same,